The psalmist David says in Psalm 63, "Thou, O Lord, art my God, early will I seek thee." I am Minister Candy McKechnie-Doris, coming out of Restorers of the Breach Ministries. Join me every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. on the Tobago Inspirational Network, where we do our devotion called Your Time Has Come. Come in, get a word. See you there. A pleasant good morning to you. I am Minister Candy McKechnie-Doris, coming out of Restorers of the Breach Ministries under the leadership of Apostles Dwayne and Josanne Dyer, and welcome to Your Time Has Come. This morning I want to take you on into a word this morning that I would have gotten a very long time ago, but I was reminded of it again recently because there's nothing new under the sun. And I am in Genesis chapter 15 verses 3 to 4, and then I'm going to go on to Genesis 16 verses 2 to 4. And it says in Genesis 15, 3 to 4, "And Abraham said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir." My God. "And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward the heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be." And then we are on to Genesis 16, and we are at verses 2 to 4. And he says, "And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord had restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai." My God. "And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes." I'm going to stop there for a while. This morning, the name of my nugget is entitled "Seed and Not Flowers." This morning, I entitled this word because it speaks of how we always want to jump the process or jump the instructions of what God has given to us. So today, as I open up this sermon, I want to begin by asking us some questions. How many of us like quick fixes? How many of us wish that we can forfeit the process and just get to the end result? How many of us would prefer that the seed stage is skipped and we get flowers and we get our trees and we get our fruits? How many of us would like that? I want to say that we misinterpret what God has promised us. A lot of times we misinterpret what God has promised us, or we misinterpret the instructions that God has given to us. We misinterpret it and we don't recognize, I should say, that God's instructions are always specific. And we always forfeit the specifics, and we hope to see the end result or the promise come. But one thing we must understand is that God is a God of order. He doesn't give quick fixes. He doesn't give us automatic things. Everything must go through the process. God is not a man that is sitting in heaven that is waving a magic wand, as Hollywood would have us to believe. You know, the first thing I want to show you is that God promised Abraham seed. He promised Abraham seed. And when he promised Abraham seed, he then went on to give him the specifics as to how the seed would become. He told him, he said, out of his Abraham's bowels, out of his bowels would come this seed. God tells Abraham in Genesis 15 verse 4 that no servant, he says, no servant will be the heir. For out of your bowels will come seed. So Abraham had the specifics from God. A lot of us get the specifics from God and we do something else, as we would learn here with Sarai and Abraham. Abraham gets the specifics from God. He says there will be no heir that will come from your house, no servant. But yet still we see Sarai, excuse me, defying the code. God promised us one thing, but then we want to manipulate the process. Because we are impatient. We want to jump ahead. We want to skip 15 steps and get to the landing. When God has promised us one thing. God has been specific in his promise. God has been specific in his instruction. God has spoken to us with specifics. I can't stop saying that word, with specifics. But we don't listen. We are impatient. He says, Abraham, I'm giving you seed from your bowels, out of your house, Abraham, out of your marriage, where two has become one. They were one blood. When you study Sarai and Abraham, they were one blood. They were one lineage. The seed was going to come from his bowels, the bowels that and he himself and Sarai constituted or made up that bowel. So Abraham gets the specifics. But Sarai has another plan. God gives us the specifics. But we always have another plan. We like to have a just in case because we don't trust God. Before a flower can burst the ground, a seed must be planted. Come on, where are my science folks? Where are my science folks? A seed goes into the ground and it goes through a process in the earth where it dies, where it sheds its coat before the flower can emerge. We must allow the natural process to take place. I remember, like, when we were in we were in primary school. They would give us some little cups with some the toilet paper, and they say, put the seed in there, cover it. So it means that the seed must go into covering. It must go into hiding for the process. You can't see. If you leave a seed on the table, you can't see it with your natural eye. So God says to Abraham, I'm giving you seed. But Sarai has another plan. Sarai has unbelief. How many of us could talk about unbelief. I know what it is like to get an instruction from God, to get specifics, to wait, and always look for my own way, all because I am impatient, all because I have unbelief. This is what we do. We forfeit what God tells us. We do our own thing. We reap our own problems. My God, I can tell you about this. I could relate to this. Being in a waiting season, getting prophecy after prophecy. My God, a lot of options become available to you after a certain time pass. And you don't see that prophecy comes to fruition. Options begin to present themselves. My God, God tells us one thing. My God, and we go into ungodly places, seeking, my God, answers, seeking, my God, results where God has not told us, and we always burn. Because we are impatient, because we don't listen, because we want the flower before the seed can go through its process. We put limits on God. Why? Why do we do it? Just because we want to satisfy the status quo. Just because we are afraid of what society says. Society says that at a certain age you should get married, you should have kids, you should have a house. And when the time comes and the biological clock starts to tick and we don't see these things happening, we become desperate and we do our own thing. It kind of hits us different as women. When we see time running out, we become anxious. We go looking for ungodly results. We go looking for ungodly advice. We seek ungodly counsel. We drink this, we do that. We go rub here, we go pull up there, we go do these things. When that was never the specifics. And then we start to bash the prophet. The prophet is false. I can testify that society isn't easy. I had to spend, I like to talk things real here. As believers, as ministers, we must learn to be real. I had to spend a lot of years. I spent a lot of years worrying about my age. From the time I hit 35, I went on a trip. It's like I started to feel my life was going at speed. It's like, when am I going to get married? Why wasn't I married? When am I going to get kids? When am I going to do this? When am I going to do that? I started to go crazy. My whole aura changed because I was so focused. I wanted it. I wanted the flower. I didn't want the process. I just wanted it. I just wanted time to allow me to get it now. And this is sadly what a lot of us do. We are Sarai. We present Hagar. We give options. Hagar was an option. We want the baby. We don't want the process of the baby. Some women have it easier than some. Bless the Lord for that. But what about if God wants you to go through a process? What about if God is teaching you to trust Him? My God, I started to feel like I wasn't a woman. And so I started to seek out many different remedies and many different advice, and all because I just wanted to feel like what society says a woman is. But can I tell you that anybody, my God, anybody could be feminine. We see it. People are acting feminine. Men are acting feminine. But not everyone can be a woman. Woman is the office. And when you look at what the office is, you would understand, and you won't get sidetracked by what society has put there. That dream that they sell us, that doesn't make you any less. So Sarai is in a position, she's old. Sarai, the thing that's natural with women has left her. But Abram must have told her what God said. So she became desperate and she presented Hagar. She presented Hagar. How many of us have been presented with Hagar? When God said that out of your bowels, out of your marriage, out of your business, out of your home shall be seed. Hagar is always problematic. I'm going to say this again. Hagar will always lead to problems. The word says that when Sarah realized, or rather when Hagar realized that she was pregnant, she resented Sarai. Hagar was not what God said, and anything outside of what God says would become chaotic. We're talking about the seed. What is a seed? Or what does the seed represent? The seed represents the beginning of something new. New life. New business. Newness. The seed also signifies that there's going to be a process that's going to take place. So when you hear them use the term and said, put seed in the ground, it's not for right away, it's for later on. For when the seed brings forth harvest, when the seed brings forth its flower, when the seed brings forth its tree, when the seed brings forth its fruit. And that process is called germination. The seed goes under the ground. It goes into a different habitat and it needs a proper environment. It needs proper environmental conditions to grow. You can't put a seed down and be like Abram. God tells you that you're going to have a seed, but your environment is unbelief. Your environment is chaos. Your environment is impatience. My God, your environment is doubt. Abram's wife had a believing problem. His environment was not conducive at the time for what God was saying. Our environment, God says certain things to us, but our environment just may be not conducive. We have not made our environment our environment friendly for a seed. All because of option. So Sarah jumps the gun and she gives her husband, Sarai, to her maid. She puts a seed, not the one that God promised, but she sets a seed in the wrong environment. The one where Ishmael comes forth. The seed that caused Hagar to flee to the desert. Trouble. If God gives you a word and God gives you a specific instruction and you see trouble as a result of it, that was not what God meant. I'm not talking about the fact that the enemy will come up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that trouble that goes against the seed. When we do our own thing, it costs us. When we make our own way, it costs us. I can tell you, I've made my own way several times. It cost me my mental health. It cost me tears. It cost me disappointments. When God never told me to do that, and I went and did it anyway, off of the advice of people. People always have advice for you. When you're going through something, why don't you drink this? Or why don't you go there? Or why don't you go to the bank? Or why don't you do this? When you have already gotten your word, he says, out of your bowels shall be the seed. Can you imagine how much unnecessary pain we can avoid if we trust God's process? Can you imagine that? When we study the seed, the outside is hard. It's protecting the inner parts from the harsh elements. The Bible says here, it says 10 years Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan. After 10 years, and during that 10 years, after that 10 years, God changed him from Abraham to Sarah. Sometimes God has to let us go through a period. Let the coat harden. Let the seed go through certain depths. Let the environment change. Let the environment become conducive for the real seed to come forth. My God. My God. God changes their names. And that season, in that season is where the seed comes forth. Seed and not flowers. Why? Why seed and not the flowers? Why the process and not the end result? Why is it not back to front? The flower is the end result of the seed. The flower serves to show that a process went through. It shows that a process was not skipped. The process wasn't rushed. It shows that what God spoke came to pass. It shows the end result. Hagar is just an option. Ishmael was never the promise. Ishmael was as a result of Sarai making her own way. As Sarai presenting Abram with an option. Isaac is the promise. This morning I want to tell you, whatever God has told you, whatever instruction he has given you, whatever he has promised, do not skip the process. Let the seed die. Let the seed go through its germination. Let the seed go through its process. And when the flower comes, it's going to bring beauty. When Ishmael came, he brought war. He brought confusion in Abram's house. When Isaac came, he brought promise. He brought fulfillment. Isaac was the flower. Wait on God. Don't skip the process. Don't manipulate the process. Don't jump the process. Don't try to get ahead of the line. Don't try to bribe your way through. Don't try to pay your way through. Wait And I'm not talking about baby, physical baby. I'm talking about in everything. Wait. I know you want to have that business, and there's so many options on the table. But they are not Isaac. They didn't come from the bowel of Abraham, from Abraham and Sarah. They came from Abraham and Hagar. This morning, I pray that you were blessed. I really felt that I needed to talk to someone. Maybe you're in waiting. Maybe you're indecisive. Maybe there are options for you. Pray on it. Talk to God on it. Don't just skip it. Don't just take ungodly advice. The Bible says that we ought not to seek counsel in the ungodly. Don't go in ungodly places. Don't let people put their hands on you. Wait on God. Trust the process, and He will come through for you. This morning, I pray that you were blessed. God's covering over you today as you wait on your seed to go through its process. And then will come the flower. Blessings. The psalmist David says in Psalm 63, "Thou, O Lord, art my God. Early will I seek thee." I am Minister Candy McKechnie-Doris, coming out of Restorers of the Breach Ministries. Join me every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. on the Tobago Inspirational Network, where we do our devotion called Your Time Has Come. Come in, get a word. See you there.